Oh, let's just see where this takes us. We're in Capricorn right now. Capricorn. But before I get too carried away, I'm just going to call up the chart for what's going on right now. I put myself right here in the center of the chart for a change. Yeah, that's different. One of the reasons that, putting any of us right in the center of the chart is because that is the position that each one of us occupies in any moment. We are the center of this solar system, our own personal solar system, based on the astrological matrix. There's a percentage of the human population that willingly tunes in at whatever level they do to this field of astrology. Some are attempting to facilitate a safety protocol. They don't want to do things that might impinge upon their reason for existence. And, paying attention to what the planets have to say could have a bearing on what it is that their choices or options are. And you have to ask yourself, we all have to ask ourselves, am I really paying attention to what it is that this planetary celestial host is in conversation about? I know myself as an astrologer, absolutely. But I've been at this for 55 years. So you might say that I'm a well-steeped tea in the fact that, right now I look at this chart and I see, well, the sun has been in Capricorn for 17 degrees, 17 days. Now, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. Saturn is in Pisces, and whenever any planet or any celestial body, here we're talking about the sun, just back one step. When the sun is said to be in Capricorn, that means that we here, Earth, are in such a position that the backdrop of where the solar orb is Capricorn, which means that we are sitting in between Capricorn and Cancer. Now, Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn and Aquarius, traditionally. But when a planet or a body, celestial body, is in a sign, the planet that rules that sign has sway over what could be transpiring while that particular celestial body is passing through that sign. So Saturn, down here in Pisces, says to me, the wisdom, there's a good Saturnian term, of our dreams, Pisces, is in play for all the celestial bodies dancing through the sign of Capricorn. Sun, vitality, that, spark of, very energetic beingness is being potentially influenced by our dreams. And I hear from people, I don't dream. Well, that isn't really the truth. Everybody, actually everything dreams. It's just that, for us humans, it's often likely that the distractions of the human element have got our minds so tied up that we don't relax enough to allow that dream space to be present for us. I'm not that way. My dream world is vivacious and alive all the time. Doesn't necessarily mean you're stuck with just being able to sit in your dream space overnight. Oh no, daydreams are just as potent. But the distractive quality of this human dance that we are signed into while on the surface of the planet. How distracting is it for you? Do you dream? Essay question. You have to answer that yourself. So, when I look at the chart each week, actually I look at it for longer periods than that, but I focus on the week. I go, well, who is making the most rumbling noises this week and wants to step into that position where attention might be expanded from their perspective? Well, this week, we still have Mars traveling out of bounds. Last week, it just entered, this realm of Capricorn. How is the wisdom of your dreams being inspired by this Mars out of bounds? Restraint, not a Martian quality, is even less a factor when Mars is out of bounds. Oh, no, not. I shall not be restrained, says that out of bounds Mars. My energy, potency, is amped up. I need to do things. I need to stir that pot rather vigorously. And are you willing to allow the dreamscape potential of this Mars out of bounds in Capricorn to inspire, which means to breathe in to an adventure that involves the interaction of everybody? That's part of the essential nature of Capricorn. It's that energy that we bring together one with another in the hopes that what will transpire will be of benefit to the most, as many as possible. So this out of bounds Mars, which we've been dealing with for quite a while now, is still in play, and having just entered our Capricornian dance. Are you willing to allow your dream visions to put in more of a dynamic appearance as far as being able to utilize that energy effectively in how you approach your daily dance? And in this case, it's with those who ostensibly, would attempt to bring to focus a meaningful context of what we need to do together as a body. And by the way, this is one of those every other weeks too, where the moon went out of bounds yesterday on the 7th. Yep, the 8th. And, well, it's the moon. How do you feel? Well, the moon here, holding hands and dancing with Venus, one of our 3 Sagittarian planets right now, is saying, or do you feel, moon, artistic? Do you sense some kind of connection that you might be enhanced or enhancing as you engage with others, Venus, in Sagittarius, to expand beyond the parameters of what others probably said, you need to contain yourself within. I don't think so. This is Sagittarius. That kind of containment is something that is always, from a Sagittarian perspective, being, pushed at the realms of constraint to say, I know there's more. So this feeling of interaction with other people is attempting to awaken within us opportunities to, from what's our ruling planet of Sagittarius? Jupiter, which has just gone direct recently down here in Taurus, saying, have you had enough dessert? Now, what do you mean dessert? Where does dessert come from in that consideration of Taurus? Taurus loves dessert. It likes to be pampered. There's an essential tuning into our earth element that Taurus represents, that says that, the riches of this planet are available to me in this moment if I but tune into them. And Jupiter is not one to hold back. So this Jupiterian energy down there in Taurus is saying to our Sagittarian trio, don't hold back. Take chances. And Jupiter's in Taurus. From the Sagittarian perspective and the Jupiterian perspective, am I in tune with this planetary energy that supports me on the surface of this particular celestial body? Am I in tune with all the parts thereof? Now, we haven't even gone into the week yet. There will be a new moon this week. What else have we got going on? And Mercury is going to shift from Sagittarius into Capricorn. Mercury. I was contemplating before coming on today a cartoonish presentation that I saw of the different planets, being given human characteristics. And you could see Venus very much, the artist sitting there putting the finishing touches on Mona Lisa. The moon, just that throbbing heart energy of connection, feeling the processes of, being in tune with life, all the presence. Mercury split into 2 parts, having a debate with itself. Mars, Oh, that driving Martian energy, the hammer and sickle of control, the military might of aid, armed forces at work doing what armed forces do, which is, is it helpful on the planet? To a select few, perhaps. I don't really sense that the armed forces archetype really is of that much benefit. It makes life on planet Earth just a wee bit more challenging. Anyway, that was just an aside. Our aspects. Mars in an exact sextile to Saturn, also in a sextile to Jupiter, and this trine forming from Mars down here to Jupiter. Mars, that, out of bounds energy. Jupiter, don't hold back. How is your dreamscape doing, Saturn in Pisces? Is there a meaningful context to it? Well, this, trine with the two sextiles is working, saying, sextiles and trines, by the way, are very positive kind of energies. They say that the communication or the exchange of energy between planets in those aspects is dynamic. There's something, that is at work that, it doesn't have, things holding itself back. You may say, yeah, but what am I, Saturn? Saturn naturally wants to hold things back. Well, Saturn wants to contain things, which doesn't necessarily mean it's holding them back. It's just saying, and in this case right now, because it's in Pisces, are you paying attention to what your dreams are saying is potential for you beyond what it is that might be a constraint, that Saturn factor? I mean, are you? Do you, are your dreams giving you images that you say, well, that can't ever happen here on planet Earth? How could a human being, how could we as a humanity, be able to survive with that kind of a context? Something to think about. Anyway. Yeah, I see the sun is also coming into a trine with Uranus retrograde. So it's highly likely that, there's some shake, rattle, and rolling going on that is worth at least a mention here to say that, is the focus sun in Capricorn able to contain the kind of energy that Uranus represents here from the perspective of, our engagement with planetary wide substance that is, maybe just a little bit being pushed off kilter, off balance currently, saying, is what you, in your rulership awareness here as human beings, effectively able to, what shall we say, from a Saturn perspective, contain the effects or the ramifications of what it is that we are doing to the planet? Are the rules and regulations in place from the seat of governance on planet Earth right now able to breathe effectively into our connection to all of life? and it's being shaken. It's not something that's, oh yeah, everything's under control. I don't think so. When I look at stuff that's transpiring from our government's things, well, here it is. We're on Wednesday right now. Let's see if I got anything marked down for Wednesday the 10th. Oh, yes. On this day, probably later in the day, because we have 8 degrees, so that's 16 hours past 8 o'clock in the morning. It's really late in the day. There will be a new moon in Capricorn at 20 degrees. The Sabian symbol for this particular degree, as with all new moons, setting an intention for what you want to accomplish during this next lunar cycle, which begins there at 20 degrees of Capricorn. Sun and the moon together, the two lights in the heaven. The vision reads, a relay race. And the keynote, the value of competition in developing group consciousness. Capricorn, the group is important. More words on this. Here we are no longer dealing with competition between individuals, but with competition between groups of individuals who take turns successively in order to maximize the group effort and the possibility of outstanding results. Do you feel that about our human society right now? The potential exists, but do you feel it? The whole of civilization is a vast kind of relay race in which groups of people and generations carry the torch of what we call progress. Major achievements result from the sum total of human strivings. Wherever this symbol appears, it emphasizes the value of group cooperation and of necessary give and take. One must seek to relate and adjust one's strength to the challenge presented by competition in dynamic interchange. I suggest listening to that as this next lunar cycle begins. And keep in mind the dynamic that is transpiring as, technically, let's go back one day. Yeah. See that declination for the moon, 28 degrees? Well out of bounds. So as we begin, as we contemplate, how to facilitate this particular lunar cycle, it begins with the moon out of bounds, Don't hold me back. I have a wildness kind of feeling about me. These are the kind of terms, and it could, you could sense a certain awkwardness to it because the moon, very heart-centered connection to all of life. And yet out of bounds, there's this, potential driving energy to it that says, I gotta escape the confines of what it is that I'm being asked to maintain out of bounds. That lunar dance says, as you begin this next lunar cycle, where does that competitive factor fit into the equation of what it is that I need to accomplish during this lunar cycle? What part of Capricorn and containment, theoretically, of group energy am I being asked to participate in? And Mars stays out of bounds all week long. We have the exact trine forming between Mars and Jupiter on this Thursday, the 11th. Mars is still out of bounds, remember? Jupiter is saying, take no prisoners. Boy, when you put that together with a out of bounds Mars, it's kind of like, I don't know what to expect, but my sensing is that the war machine might be running rampantly out of control. And part of the reason for that is the desire, that's another good Martian term, for making attempts to be in a position of leadership and control, no matter what the cost. That kind of energy is in the air on many parts of this planet we live in. You can say, yeah, we got wars happening in Ukraine and Israel and Yemen, and the list goes on and on and on. But even more so, is the competitive urge, that drives the cycles of energy in the business world that we all have to live within, able to facilitate a give and take whereby we can all grow effectively from it? Or are there, factors within that are, eating the whole cake, so to speak, and only leaving a few crumbs for the rest of us to survive on? Just some thoughts that pass through. On Friday, the moon shifts into Aquarius, and it's just passed over this Sun-Pluto dance, which is forming. It's still a little ways away, but it's in play. And I bring it up because next week, on 2 consecutive days, first the Sun will move into Aquarius, and then Pluto will move into Aquarius. Pluto, which has been traveling through the sign of Capricorn since 2008. That's a big energy to, really wrap your mind around. As with any of the 3 outer planets, they take their sweet time going through a sign, and they carry with them their whole experience of being in the sign, their energy signature to essentially, I'm going to say, challenge that particular sign to, tune into what that planetary energy signature is about. And the Pluto the energy is about total transformation. And Pluto, which has an affinity with Scorpio, is saying, are you willing to allow aspects of who and what you are to pass away? Because it's likely They are getting in the way of what it is that your soul signed up for in this incarnational process to develop into. And there are blockages which, are preventing you from really knowing that soul heart connection that really is the driving force of each and every one of us. Pluto since 2008 has been, asking us to really ponder, is our form of governance on planet Earth and amongst ourselves the most effective? Or might there be something more advantageous for not just a few of us, but all of us? It's sitting right there. Pluto has asked us continuously, pay attention to the deeper realms of what it is that life is about. And are you participating in it? Because the requirement is that level of participation that, really can't cotton on to the control factors that are restraining us from knowing each other's soul level of awareness at infinite ways, where we are really connected energetically to each other and to all of life. That's a dynamic thing. This shift into Aquarius, which I am going to cover more particularly next week, is asking us, are we being humane one to another and to this planet we live on? As Pluto moves through the Aquarian's perspective for the next 26 years or so, I don't even know how long, a long time, and I suspect unless I live to be extremely old, this is where Pluto's going to be for the rest of this particular present incarnation that I am about. On Saturday, Mercury is going to shift into the realm of Sagittarius. Here's our two mercurial characters having the debate, moving into the realm of Capricorn and saying, well, what are we discussing now? We've had this Sagittarius dance where, there really were no limits on the potential of where we could go that, wanted to constrain us. In Capricorn, you have to say, what will the debate be about? I've given you some considerations during this next week's astrological look. Remember? Saturn going through a 2.5-year dance in the realm of dream. So with Mercury dancing in the Capricorn, is it conceivable that our dreams could, would, and should be a part of that debate? 4 celestial bodies now in the sign of Capricorn, Venus. I don't think it's going to quite get there before the Sun and Pluto shift into Aquarius. But Venus, how we get along one with another, is still in that Sagittarius no limits perspective. The debate Am I paying attention to my dreams? Are my dreams clear? Can I dream? It's a conversation that we can have with ourselves, but I see probably a little more benefit in sharing this conversation one with each other. Pay attention to the energy of what it is that life is about. When I was a youngster, 9, 10 years old, I got to get out into this desert, under this starry sky next to the pyramids. And just as in this picture, it is not dark, even with no moon in the sky. Under that many stars, without the influence of man-made light. This is how light the world is when it is being bathed by the celestial effervescence. And this was probably the time when my first inclinations came. Whoa. So many stars. Such an enormity of awareness potential. I still feel that, even to this day. So, set your intentions for whatever you want to for this new moon. And, astrology just gives you some hints as to the kind of energy in play if you want to pay attention to it. Because free will always be the determining of our choices. There are always ramifications. You just have to ask yourself, does my free will choices have effects that I can live with going forward? That's all I got for this week. I look forward to seeing you all next week, third week of 2024. Big energy change. I mean, huge. That Pluto going into Aquarius. I am an Aquarius, and it's going to dance across my moon. I'm looking forward to it, and we'll see just where it takes all of us. Ciao. See you all next week.